all-new season of Southern Fried Asian. I am your host, Keith Chow. In our special return, I am joined by the star of a brand new animated series on HBO Max called Aquaman, King of Atlantis. Cooper Andrews stops by the podcast. Born in Long Island, but grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, with a pit stop in Maryland, which we'll talk about as well. Because he is Samoan for this special episode, we are rebranding the podcast as Southern Fried Polynesian. It was a very fun conversation. We get into mostly our love for DC Comics and DC superheroes. So without further ado, please welcome Cooper Andrews. All right, I am here with Cooper Andrews, the star of the new miniseries event on HBO Max called Aquaman, King of Atlantis. You also know him from like a bunch of other nerd stuff, but we're going to talk about Aquaman mostly today. Please welcome to Southern Fried Asian, and we're going to change the name of the podcast for this week, Southern Fried Polynesian, to my man Cooper Andrews. What's going on, Cooper?
Not much. I like that. Southern Fried Polynesian. I'm hungry.
What would Southern Fried Polynesian taste like?
Oh man, I think we'd have some some fried spam and just put that on some rice, and then we're gonna be Southern, lay on the collard greens.
Absolutely.
All right. So I'm gonna be hungry this entire time we're talking now.
Hey, so one thing that we do we usually do it at the end of the podcast, and we'll circle back around to it. But we always talk about like a food memory, because that's the one thing that kind of ties like our cultures, right? When you're Southern and when you're Asian Pacific Islander, it's our love for like mutual love for food. So, but we'll get to that. I thank you for being on the show. I'm a big fan. I've loved you ever since I saw you on Walking Dead, and to see you like in Shazam, and now you're fully entrenched in the DC universe now, right?
It's where I want to be. I love DC. I love DC.
This is Southern Fried, and we're going to talk about growing up in Atlanta, though, because that's the unique thing about this podcast, right? Is that our people kind of like are not usually associated with the Deep South, and you spent a good portion of your life in Atlanta. What was it like? First of all, how did you end up in Atlanta? Because I know you weren't born there. How did you end up in Georgia?
I came here to Atlanta when I was 11. So my mom, her job kept bringing her down. She's a pension actuary, and so I was born in Long Island. Then I lived in Jersey. Then lived 2 years in Maryland, and then came to Atlanta, which is funny because Atlanta to me is. We have a lot of Southerners and then a lot of like New York Southerners, just people that came down from New York and are just chilling.
Yeah.
And so you have a lot of Atlanta has this accent, this non-regional accent, and that's the Atlanta. But then when we go outside of that bubble, then we start hearing a little more of the Southern. But yeah, Georgia's home, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, you bounced around a little bit. Just real quick, what part of Maryland did you live in when you were little?
A place called Towson.
I'm in Towson right now.
Are you really in Towson?
I literally live in Towson.
Yeah, I lived off of Berkshire Road, which was off of Burke Road, and there's this awesome Greek pizza place like right around there. This whole conversation is going to be
it's all food
oriented.
No, that's awesome. You're from Towson. Like no one's from like Amy Schumer is like the only person that's from Towson, and Michael Phelps and Amy Schumer are from Towson. Now Cooper Andrews.
So that's the thing. So there's a story of when I visited Towson when I was 20, and I was like, what are you doing these days? Like, oh, I do like commercials. I was like, being a boom op, and they're like, oh yeah, no, Mikey's been doing a lot of that. I'm like, oh, okay. And I'm trying to think Mikey, and he's like, yeah, he makes like millions of dollars doing commercials. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, well, does like Gatorade, and he does like Wheaties. I'm like, but like, I'm like thinking, is he? I don't know what job has that. And then I'm like, well, what's he up to? He's like, well, he's Mikey Phelps. I'm like, yeah, what's he doing? He's like, it's Mikey Phelps. I'm like, okay. Well, how's he doing all that? He's like, he's Michael Phelps. And that was such you remove the glasses. Clark Kent is Superman?
Exactly.
What? No. What? Mikey Phelps? So, I never called him Mikey. I don't, but I guess that was,
So you were here around the time Phelps was around? Is like, did you go to school together?
We were in the same class. We were in the same. I was there from like 4th to 6th grade. But yeah, we were in the same grade, and I have like pictures of when we were like kids, like 10 or 11. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's exactly.
That's like, so wild. That's so wild. You lived in Towson, like, because I always tell people I live in Baltimore because no one knows where the fuck Towson is.
Right. I love Towson. You got the mall. You got the Towson Commons.
That's still here. Still here. Okay. Towson Commons is still. Well, it's all like, this is the most boring podcast because we're talking about shopping centers in Towson, Maryland. But it's still around. They've renovated all of it. We have like a Shake Shack now. It's dope.
Oh, right on.
Anyway, we'll talk about Georgia though. So, but do you identify mostly with Georgia? Because I wonder, yes. Because Walking Dead shoots in Georgia, like you're still there then, right?
Yeah. So the Walking Dead's go until March, like for filming wise. So it's just been a lot of staying here and getting comfortable.
So did you like go out to LA to be an actor and then like you got cast in Walking Dead, like now I'm in Atlanta again, or like you got, because you're in Atlanta, that's how you got cast in Walking? Like what was that journey?
So I was doing a show called Halt and Catch Fire. That was my first acting as far as an actor goes job, where I was trying to get into a character that wasn't so much commercial or whatever. And that shot here in Georgia. And after our second season, we had no clue. Every year we didn't know if we were getting like picked up again. So I was like, all right, well, head to LA. So went in 2016. Within the first month of being there, I had to go back to film the rest of Halt and Catch Fire for the third season. Then when I came back from that was when Walking Dead wanted me over there, or had me do it. So it was funny because as I was ending Halt and Catch Fire, I then overlapped with like one episode for Walking Dead.
Right.
And then I was, I'm in my pool, I'm in the, like we had like a rental house, we had like a swing. It's like every rental house we look for is like find a swimming pool while in LA. And I'm in the pool and I'm filming my buddies doing like a fight sequence. And then my manager calls and she's like, "You sitting down?" I'm like, "Kind of, what's up?" She's like, "Well, Walking Dead wants you." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." And they want you here tonight. Oh, okay. Could we do tomorrow? took them aback a little bit. Like then I asked that.
Can you give me 6 hours, right?
Yeah, it's like I need to shoot this thing. Yeah, then after season 7 of Walking Dead, I went back to LA again, and then I got Den of Thieves, which shot in Atlanta again. Then by the time we were done with Den of Thieves, I had time to do like a pilot back out in Los Angeles, and then season 8 of Walking Dead started. So I kept going back. So at the end of it, I was like, I was in LA for the 3 years I was there. I was in LA for maybe like a total of 4 months, grand total. And
I mean, like you're from Atlanta. It's almost like, why do I even need to go to LA? Everything's shooting here, right?
I know my family's here, like all my friends. It's like this is, I'm so happy to be able to just stay in Georgia and shoot this show. Shoot Walking Dead.
Yeah, no. So that's
among other things,
right? I mean, that's the thing, right? Like Atlanta is kind of like Hollywood South now, right? Like everything.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly you're a DC guy. You're not in the Marvel universe, but like Marvel shot everything, and I'm just surprised you never showed up on a Marvel set.
I boomed.
Can we talk about that here on this?
I boomed a week on Loki.
Oh, there you go.
For second unit, it was October of 20, and so it's like, all right, it's been a while, we haven't done anything. So my wife and I, we went on for a week as a sound team.
Oh, nice. So you still do some behind the scenes stuff. That's cool. I mean, I love it's. I really enjoy learning and seeing what new toys there are on different sets, and it's it was just fun. It was like relaxing. It's like relaxing for me, I guess. But yeah, I love. If I'm not acting, I want to be making something. I can't just sit. You can't sit still. Yeah. So I guess these last like 19 months have been. Well, I guess, I mean, you've done stuff too. So that's.
I was very, very fortunate with that because we had Walking Dead started shooting again pretty much early on. Shazam, we just wrapped the second Shazam last month, and then Aquaman.
Yeah. Which
I am so excited about. Aquaman.
Well, that's why we're here.
So stoked about it.
That's why we're here. I mean, so just but before we dive down into the depths of Atlantis, being a part of two of the biggest nerd franchises in the world, right? Because we're just take DC in general, right? Like I said, you're also in Shazam, and now you're Aquaman. But Walking Dead, right? These two huge iconic nerd franchises. Were you a nerd growing up? Like, what was it? What is it like for you to kind of be, kind of a king of San Diego Comic-Con right now, right? You know what I mean?
I'm a court jester at best, but
no, you are royalty now. You can't deny it. You are literally royalty now.
Maybe the instruction card. But what was that question?
No, just what is it like? I mean, one, were you a nerd growing up? And then if so, like, what's it like now to kind of like have these mega franchises under your belt?
I mean, to me, see, I can get into the semantics of the terminology. To me, nerds were always the ones. Nerds can be people that were into the geeky stuff, but also really smart. Me, I just did I'm not the really smart part. I just liked all the franchises. I was a DC fan from the beginning. Superman. I mean, I was raised on George Reeves, Chris Reeves,
yep.
And the old cartoons where like they dealt with things like physics where someone would fall from a building and he would alley-oop the guy back up so that if you just catch a body, it doesn't splat. All the action figures. I remember I had all the toys. I collected DC Comics, mostly Superman from 91 till 2000, 2002 or so.
Nice. So like that's like Death of Superman and all that stuff.
Yes. And like Rain, and then like him turning blue, then red,
electric Superman.
Yeah, what was ever happening? What was happening there?
Yeah, it's weird that's never gotten adapted into a movie or animated. Red and blue Superman. Yeah, those are some lean times in the Superman canon. I'll say that.
Yeah, but no, always been a fan just of to me, the difference between and I love Marvel as well, but it's never a Marvel or DC guy. Well, DC
we love all of it, right? Like, we have to choose? Yeah,
it's like I ain't choosing that. It's like I'm the guy that gets pizza and Chinese food.
There you go.
I don't
exactly
choose. But yeah, the DC. What I loved about DC and what I love about all their heroes is that their heroes all had to make a choice. Like they all had to make the choice to become the hero. Like that,
right.
Like forced on them a little bit. But I always felt like when it came to the Marvel, for a lot of Marvel characters, is sort of they were born this way and they sort of lived their life. They try to live their life regardless. And then with the DC, there's always they're there to make a difference. You have Batman doesn't want to see anyone he doesn't want to have his childhood on anyone else. Superman,
right.
who has all these powers, can do whatever he wants, but the one thing is to protect Wonder Woman, who sees injustice in the world of man, and has to do it. And then you have Aquaman, who's a guy who he had his life. He was doing his things. He was running his life, and now he has to be able to take his experience of just being a man to protecting an entire ocean. We say it's a lot, it's like kingdom, ruling is really more about just protecting and like how to make everyone better. So no one gave themselves an easy task of becoming, but they all chose to become that hero.
Right. No, I mean, that's absolutely right. I mean, that's kind of what I've always been drawn to the DC universe more so as well, is that like, and I think there's a misperception about DC because people always say it's like these gods that are unrelatable. And it's like, that's just surface, right? You're not really reading these stories in, because like someone like a Superman, like you mentioned, what I love about, people are always like, well, he's too powerful. He's OP. You can't relate to Superman, but he's actually the most human of all the superheroes, right? Like, because what's his weakness? It's not kryptonite. It's his love for humanity. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's his, and exactly the, what was it? The Superman Returns, that line. I love that line so much, where he's like floating Lois up, and he's like, what do you hear? And she's like, nothing. He's like, well, I hear everyone. I hear everything. And I hear all these people crying out for a savior. And I'm like, Superman is like, in his mind, I mean, however you want to take it, but it's almost like he's almost like the biggest failure, because
he can
only save so much, and he can't, but he knows it's all happening.
Right.
So that's what I love about it, but like you said, there's he's super powerful, but he's not trying to like just beat up people or like stop bank robberies. He wants, there's a person in trouble, no matter the cause, he wants to help them. And I think that's sort of shared. That's definitely shared with Aquaman in our story, and just that there's not a, I don't know, there's not a problem too small.
Yeah. Well, yeah, let's dive in. I'm going to use a bunch of silly ocean puns probably for the rest of this episode. but let's dive in, right? Because like what I love about kind of this new generation of Aquaman, because we're two old head DC fans, right? And for the longest time, Aquaman was this blonde-haired, blue-eyed, prototypical superhero. Along comes James Wan. He says, "You know what? Let's cast Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Let's put a Hawaiian dude, an islander, as the ocean's protector." Which, like, why did no one think of this for 50 years, right? Like, this makes total sense. And what I love about your casting, to be completely transparent, is that like it almost canonizes Aquaman as Polynesian. You know what I'm saying? Talk about this is not a spin-off of the movie franchise whatsoever, but it is, executive produced by James. What was your impression of Jason's kind of take on Aquaman, and how has your life experience kind of like informed your take, which is wildly different from Jason's, right? Let's just be clear. But I just, like, again, maybe this is surface, but I just love the idea that Aquaman is now 100% Pacific Islander.
I love that. I agree. I love that so much because, I mean, the people that see, and you're on an island, you see all sides of that ocean. You're surrounded by it, and just I don't know. I mean, maybe I don't know if it's a me thing, but I feel like it's a lot of us Polynesian. There's that connection. There's that strong connection to the water, to the ocean, where it really. I've never felt threatened by an ocean. It just felt like something that, like, one day I may have to just go in there and it might, but it's just always been this place of peace. I think for many of us. And so, but Jason's, first off, I worked with him on this thing called Red Road, this show a few years ago, and I remember, like, I've heard about, I mean, I don't know anything about him. And then I'm like looking at this guy, he's taller than me, really fit, this good looking guy. And I'm like, oh man, it's like I hope, and then the worst thing ever happened. All right. He's super cool. That's the worst thing. Like,
right.
He's so cool and he's so friendly. And I'm like, I can't even hate this guy. I can't even hate him. Like,
that's what you hate about. You hate that you can't hate him, right?
I can't. He's just such a good person. He was so fun on set, and just the interpretation of Aquaman. I mean, like, Aquaman's a badass, and that's just what he is, and but I like that it's, the ocean kind of takes care of itself. I mean, like, a lot of the mentality is like the ocean takes care of itself, and then you realize it can't. It does need a protector, and there's a thing about being, usually for me, except with Jason, the biggest guy in the room, there's like this, I don't know, it's like we're kids, there's always like this, like, natural, like, you're bigger, you believe you have to protect. I mean, whether that is what we're supposed to do or not, but you feel that. And he just plays this, he's going to be the hero, but you also know that he's making like, you can feel the choice that he has to make, And what I felt in Aquaman was that, like, he knows what he has to do. He's going to be reluctant to it, but not in this hokey way that I normally see. It's like, I don't want to do it. It was thrust upon me. It was more like, I mean, I don't want to do it, but I mean, I'm going to do it. It's like, if it's going to be done, let's do it right. If we're going to do this, I'm going to do this, but it's like, so it's not so much the reluctant hero. It's more like, oh man, okay, fine. It's like it has to be done. I'll do it. I'm not thrilled, but I just love that to me, because to me, that's what a hero that has to make that kind of choice.
Right.
Where it's, because he could turn his back. He could turn his back on things and but I mean, I don't know. He's just, he played it awesomely. I enjoyed it. And I tried to give a little, every now and again, I try to do a little throw, just to like my little bit of like a comic comical version of how like, all right, like
Yeah,
like
that's what I mean. Like there's a taste, a little taste, but it's not.
Yeah, just the little moments of it.
It's definitely your own take on the character, and I think what you both share is this like relatability, right? Like there is like Aquaman comes off as a human being, even though he's like half most powerful Atlantean. But there's this again, we were talking about misperceptions of DC heroes, and there's always been this misperception that like Aquaman is kind of like a punchline. And while yours is a very comedic take, it never kind of like falls into that trap of like Aquaman is not, he's just a joke, right? Like it's right. Still like he's still the king of Atlantis. He's still and I was saying earlier that I feel like the whole Aquaman is a joke is only because of Entourage. I think before Entourage, there was nothing inherently like jokey about Aquaman other than the fact that like the Super Friends, everyone was freaking silly on Super Friends. You know what I mean? Like right, yeah. if you pull a gif of Batman during Super Friends, yeah, he's gonna look silly as shit. So it's like Aquaman inherently isn't necessarily like a silly character. I mean, Marvel's version is Namor, and no one ever thinks of Namor as silly, right? Like they've always like being an Atlantean is badass, right? So I love that you guys kind of like while being comedic, never like take shots on the character, and that's really great. A balance that you have to strike.
Yeah, no, it's I really love how this character is. He still has that reluctance, but not like he knows he's going to do it, but just it's like it's just this confusion of a guy like saying, "Is this is what we have to do? What?" It feels like this is really simple. Am I missing something? Like, and just him trying to get the he's just trying so hard to get the approval of his people to just let them know that he belongs there,
right?
And it's just it's fun, like he's like, I'm gonna be me, I'm gonna do me, and hopefully they'll see that and they'll appreciate what I'm trying to do, but we got to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, I had fun. This is the most fun I've had performing, was just being in that room and just going off and trying to do all these different versions of what we thought Aquaman might be into, and just his flusterness, his little childish moments, and then it's I don't know, it's a lot of fun.
Was this your first like real like voiceover gig? How did you approach, because you mentioned being in the room, and like how did you approach acting in front of a microphone in a booth versus like what you do on set on Shazam or Walking Dead? Like how did your approach change, or did it change?
There's a few things that change. I mean, voice acting is a whole other thing. I get away with I have a very not monotone, but a very underplayed when I'm acting. It's I sort of mumble my words out. And
well, I was going to say like Jerry and Vasquez are like similar in that I feel like you're laid back.
Yes.
You're chill. But Aquaman's not chill, No,
Aquaman is not chill. He's like, what is this? Like, explain this to me. I'm so confused by things. But yeah, I take it. I always take it. I take the acting the same way each time. I think about where this, I read it over and over. I'll read the script a bunch, and I try to have these conversations with these characters I play. It's like, well, how you feel? How do you feel about this? It's like, well, I mean, I'm happy I'm here. I'm a little nervous, but it's okay. Well, why are you nervous? Like, I don't know. I don't want to mess up. It's like, okay, but why do you think you're going to mess up? You've done so great before. It's like, yeah, I mean, I know, but like that, I mean, that could have been luck. I feel like it's my instinct. And so I just have these, but I'll just have these conversations. It'll just be me talking to myself and Belushi, my dog, he'll hear it, but I'll have these conversations with myself for hours at a time, where I'm just not, I mean, I don't know, like just asking, why are you having such a hard time, Aquaman? It's like, and I just try and absorb it as with any character, I do that. I just have these conversations. And it was something I heard from a buddy of mine, Lenny James. He's on Walking Dead. He's The Walking Dead now. And he wasn't talking about acting. He was telling me a story, and it was about his daughter asking him something, and he goes, before we can talk about that, yeah, before we have a conversation about that, we need to have a conversation about what Daddy does for a living. And I was like, conversation about, before we even answer that, let's have a conversation about what got you here. And before what got you there, let's have a conversation of what got you there. And it just helped me kind of feel like I'm not, with all the characters, it helps me feel like I'm not playing a caricature of somebody or like I'm pretending to be a thing. So Aquaman, I mean, I would wake up, it's like a 30+ minute drive to get to the recording studio, and I would just start like singing in the car and like just doing all these like vocal warm-ups, and I would just like, and I would just be so excited and pumped every time I showed up there.
That's awesome.
But but going into those characters, it's just having those conversations. I just every role, I just have conversations.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm so thrilled that you get to be Aquaman, and just to hear that you're a big DC fanboy, this must be like a dream come true. Because it's one thing to play like the stepdad in Shazam, and now to be like the actual superhero. That's got to be so cool.
No, I mean it is. I mean, oh geez, like Batman animated series. When you just first hear like Kevin Conroy's voice, I'm like, who is that? I think he inspired a lot of us.
Yeah, 100%.
Sure, he has, and just how it's not lost on me on like what these cartoons are, what like those cartoons are what made me want to do acting. It's like, and I was like, oh, this is fun, because it's not so much I want to act per se, it's I just want to help tell this story,
right? And
I want people to feel my excitement through all these things I do. I just love sharing. I don't know, to me acting is just sharing like just sharing your feelings, right? But that's
yeah.
But I always love just it. Oh, I'm always having fun when I'm on set, whenever I'm performing, and just being able to push that feeling out, and maybe hopefully get some people in 30 years who'll be like, hey, I listened to that guy.
Yeah, well, and Aquaman made me want to be an actor, right? Like, so last thing. I teased this earlier. Every episode we end with the segment. What is the one food memory that you have? I mean, you're still in Atlanta, so I guess it's not necessarily like remind you of home since you're home. But is there like a food spot? I should ask you about Towson. But is there a food spot back in Atlanta that when you're in LA perhaps, and you're like, man, if only they had this out in LA? What is the one thing? What is the one Georgia cuisine that brings you back?
What? Specifically in LA, when I was there, we missed wings, like proper wings. LA can make everything except wings. They do something weird, but I've been appreciating Georgia a lot recently, so I've just been doing a lot of barbecue, a lot of smoked meats, and just these garden grown veggies that like, oh, I just pulled that out the backyard. I'm like, LA. I wish it would have I wish they had some decent wings. All I thought about is like they don't even know. They don't even know.
They don't know how to raise chickens out there, I guess is what it is, right? Like that.
Yeah, it's the chicken. They fry it weird. It's all but yeah, just wings. But I mean, I have so many. Every time someone from out of town comes, these are like fit people. I'm like, we're going to Waffle House. A Waffle House? It's like, yeah, prepare yourself.
Nice.
What time do you want to go for dinner? It's like 2 a.m.
Yeah, like who goes to Waffle House? Like if it's PM, you shouldn't be at Waffle House. It's got to be AM and dark out. That's when you go to Waffle House.
That's when you get it. Yeah. That's my Waffle House.
Well, Cooper, I'm waiting for your Hot Ones episode then, because like I'm sure they can hit you up with some wings. We need to make. Hey, Sarah, we need to make that happen. We need to get Cooper on Hot Ones so we can eat some proper wings. Anyway, I am so thrilled, as I said, for Aquaman, and just getting a chance to chat with you. This has been real fun. I hope to get another chance in the future. How can people find you on the internet, and when can they find Aquaman, King of Atlantis?
I am Smug Orange. I was named after a pet fruit that I kept in my freezer with my buddies, and we kept them in there for 4 years.
Whoa, that's a whole other story for another podcast.
Yeah, that's all. So Smug Orange on Instagram and Twitter. And October 14th, guys, Aquaman King of Atlantis begins, and it's
HBO Max.
Awesome. HBO Max.
HBO Max. Well, Cooper, thanks so much. This is, like I said, has been fantastic, and I am so thrilled for the rest of the world to check out King of Atlantis because it's going to be dope.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited for everyone to get into this. This is fun. Like, watch with your kids, but as adults, you're gonna enjoy it so much.
That's the best cartoons, right? Like, that's the classic WB cartoon, right? Like,
yeah,
kids can get it, but adults really get it.
yes, and there's plenty. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
I'm excited.
Thanks once again to my guest Cooper Andrews. Again, check out Aquaman King of Atlantis, October 14th. Streaming only on HBO Max. You can follow me on Twitter at @TheRealChow, _real_Chow, and on Instagram at RealKeithChow. Follow the podcast at Southern Fried Asians on Instagram and at Southern Asians on Twitter. Subscribe and download on Apple Podcasts, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere you get podcasts. Find it all at hardknockmedia.com/Southern Fried Asian. As always, the podcast has been co-produced by Jess Vu. And until next time, keep it Southern Fried, y'all.